Every country needs a giant monster movie, it seems. Japan's got, well, pretty much all of them. The US has King Kong. Fuck, even North Korea has Pulgasari. So, in 1967, South Korea decided they needed to have at that monster money pie. Thus, Younggari was born. Keep in mind that Younggari was not South Korea's first kaiju movie. The same year Younggari was released, there was another kaiju movie being shown in festivals called Space Monster Wangmangwi? Mangwangwi. I think that's how you pronounce it. But that film is totally lost and has never surfaced since. Anyway, back to Younggari. The plot of this movie is pretty much exactly what you'd expect from a 60s kaiju movie. When earthquake activity is detected in the Middle East, to be honest, I'm not even sure what he is. A scientist? An inventor? I don't know. I mean, he spends his free time making light beam machines that make you itch, so who the fuck knows what this guy is? Anyway, this guy is launched into space to track an earthquake. So he's a scientist, inventor, and an astronaut. God damn. But I mean, come on, there's gotta be an easier way to track an earthquake. You know, like a plane, maybe? How does a spacecraft track earthquake activity from space? Anyway, fuck it. Turns out the earthquake is caused by a giant dinosaur with a horn on its head called Younggari. This thing can do basically the same shit Godzilla can do, but he's nowhere near as cool. I bet you can't guess what happens after Younggari shows up. Guess. He stomps on stuff. Did not see that coming. But for some reason, and I have no idea what the fuck this is, every time you see Younggari walking around, it's accompanied by this disgusting squishing sound. What the hell is that supposed to be anyway? Honestly, for what was one of the earliest South Korean kaiju movies ever attempted, the effects are pretty solid. All the miniatures look good, all the tanks and explosions are good. It's good. It's not Toho level, but for what it is, it ain't bad at all. And it's got some pretty great moments, like this scene. That's awesome. That just comes out of nowhere. And this great moment where our hero is hit by a piece of debris that is so painfully obviously thrown by an off-screen crew member. Love it. Or how about when the camera is looking at Younggari but pans up a little too high, just enough to reveal what I believe is one of the studio lights? Hot damn. The tone of this movie is all over the place. For half the movie, Younggari is supposed to be this mammoth destructive force that eats oil and breathes fire, but then all of a sudden they start playing disco music and he starts fucking dancing. For no reason whatsoever. Very clearly taking notes from the Gamera movies here.
Hey! He's dancing!
Now, I gotta talk about the end of the movie, because holy shit, it might just be one of the greatest finales in kaiju movie history. They discover that for some reason, when Younggari comes into contact with ammonia, he gets itchy, so they decide the ultimate way to defeat him is to just dump ammonia on him. At this point, he literally itches to death in a scene that goes on so fucking long that I swear the director was just behind the camera jerking off to the sheer level of gratuity here. Younggari collapses into a river and, no joke, twitches and shits blood until he dies, while our heroes in the chopper watch and laugh. You know, for a movie that really doesn't take itself seriously and was released for what I imagine was probably a young person demographic, that's some pretty dark and twisted shit right there. Unfortunately, it's impossible to tell if the original Korean version of Younggari was different in tone than the American dub, because the American dub is the only version of the movie that still exists. Apparently, when the producers of the Korean version sent the movie to America to be dubbed, they sent everything, including the original negatives, which you aren't supposed to do. This resulted in the original version of the movie being lost. God damn, could you imagine being the guy that dropped the ball that hard? Younggari is okay at best. Really, it doesn't do anything special for the genre, and aside from having some standout moments that aren't standout because they're good, but rather because they're random and make no sense, it's just a basic monster movie. Younggari gets 2.5 stars out of 5. I mean, it's far more competently made than the uber shit biscuit of a remake that we know as Reptilian, but that isn't really saying much.